Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me again. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for 100 subscribers. I'm so happy about that. I'm so grateful that people care. Thank you. Anyways, I'm going to be talking about how much I hate family channels today. So let's get into it. Family channels have been the target of controversy and debate for quite some time by other creators on this platform. A lot of the criticism I think is extremely warranted. So today I'm going to sort of delve into this subsection of YouTube and try to speak about how ethical or unethical I think it is. Right off the bat, I want to make my bias clear that I think there's a huge problem with these channels and this community, mostly because of the lack of rights and regulations for the minors involved in the content. I think when there's no regulations or rights for these children, it can easily border into exploitation. It also gives rise to the issue of consent. When can a minor give informed consent to fame, to millions of people watching their family and their daily life? A lot of these channels feature kids that are like toddlers, and obviously they don't have the capacity to give informed consent. I think people can only truly consent to something if they're able to appreciate the consequences of an act or their actions. So if a child is able to appreciate the consequences of fame or having millions of people watching their every move, obviously a baby, which as I said before is often featured in these channels, can't consent to their life being put on the internet. So why is that the main draw for a lot of these family channels, and why is that deemed as wholesome content or kid-friendly content? I'm gonna break this video down into 3 different classifications of family channels that have garnered controversy. So the first is the wholesome family channel. The second is going to be the controversial or sort of problematic family channel, and the third is going to be the abusive or neglectful family channel. So let's start with the least shitty, which is going to be the wholesome family channels. For the purpose of this video, I'm only going to include families that seem to have a positive reception by most people and seem to stay out of most controversies. So I'm only going to include one example though. So the example I'm going to include is the LeBrant family. This family has amassed over 12 million subscribers and features the mom Savannah and the dad Cole, and I believe they started their family channel in around 2017. Savannah, who is a little bit older than Cole, had her first child, Everly, a bit before she met Cole. So Everly's biological dad is not Cole, as if that matters, but it's part of their content, so I'm just saying it. But since getting married, the couple has given birth to 2 children, their infant child Posey, and I believe they just had a new baby boy a couple weeks ago, and they haven't released the name. I'm pretty sure they refer to him as Z. It's gonna be some sort of huge reveal to reveal his name. From a quick overview of their channel, they seem like a lovely, wholesome, loving family. Their content follows just the journey of a young family and how they navigate. I think they are religious, if I'm not mistaken. Their most popular videos are just like normal family celebrations, like pregnancy announcements, birthdays, family vacations, stuff like that. But regardless of the content for the most part being wholesome, the issue still remains. Can Everly, can Posey, can their new mystery son truly consent to being filmed and having their life put on the internet for over 12 million people to watch and tune into? I don't think they can. And from my minimal research, I haven't watched the channel, I don't follow the channel, I'm not someone who really watches a lot of family vlogger content, so I don't really understand the nuances of the LeBrant family and sort of their interpersonal relationships with each other and their subscribers. But I believe the channel channel was initially Cole's, who I think garnered a following off of Vine. The first video I found that is still up was that featured Savannah and Everly was posted in September 2016 when Everly was around 3 years old. Like I've said before, a 3-year-old can't really give their informed consent to, I don't know how big Cole's channel was at the time, but perhaps like over 100,000 people were watching that had been transferred over from Vine. So 3-year-old Everly can't give the consent or can't appreciate being watched or scrutinized by that many people. They also often use clickbaity titles to sort of exploit or exaggerate, maybe is a better word, their daily life, like what small little things that happen in their kids' daily life. They try to like exaggerate it to get more views, which isn't a crime on YouTube. Everyone does it, but it's just interesting when your kid is the person you're sort of exploiting for views. For example, they have a video from February 2020 that they titled "The Doctor Gave Us Unexpected News About Everly," and they spend like 5 to 7 minutes of the video trying to like hype up this unexpected news, whatever, like, is Everly gonna die, blah blah blah. Obviously not, but like I would hope someone wouldn't exploit a terminal illness like that, but I'm sure some people would. But it's just like, I think Everly just had a twisted ankle, but like they literally dragged that announcement out and like had her sit and pose for a thumbnail looking upset just to reveal that like her ankle was like minor, like had a minor injury, which is a little to me. I don't believe there's anything inherently wrong about their content because I do believe that they are good parents. Like, I'm not putting into question like if they love their kids and if they can like facilitate a healthy environment for their kids. It's just the issue of family content itself being deemed family friendly and us not having any sort of previous history of how long-term effects of how fame in the YouTube space will affect a child growing up. Because you see kids like child actors like Macaulay Culkin or Lindsay Lohan who have like their lives were completely ruined by child stardom. So maybe the effects will be similar for YouTube stars. Anyways, I'm just saying, I think it gets a little weird when you sort of use clickbaity titles around your kid's injury, minor injury, and like, does Everly feel safe or feel like she has the capacity to like express to her parents that she doesn't want to film one day? Like, is that sort of an open dialogue? Who knows? Also, since a majority of their financial pull that they get from their channel or brand deals are from being a wholesome family channel, do they put aside some of those earnings for their 3 kids because they are also part of the channel? They're creating the content, they're involved in the content, so they should get some of the monetary gain put aside in like trust funds or something that they can access when they are of legal age. I'm not saying that Savannah and Cole don't do this, I have no idea, but I feel like that should be like a mandatory practice in family channels. Also, a common thing that I have seen in a lot of these family channels is that the parents make accounts for their very, very, very young children, which is a little weird for me. Of course, it's usually the parents that are monitoring or curating the content to post on Instagram. I believe in the bios they always have like, oh, my account is monitored by my parents, blah blah blah. But like, I'm pretty sure for the LeBrant family, Posey and Everly have Instagram accounts, which is a little weird because according to Instagram terms of service, you have to be 13 years old to have an Instagram account. So I don't believe they should have Instagram accounts. I believe they should be taken down, but that's just my humble opinion. I also want to note, it's kind of interesting that the LeBrant family seems to currently have their comments on their YouTube channel turned off, and I sort of wonder why that is. Are they getting an influx of hate comments? Do they just not want Everly or their kids to read it? Do they get creepy comments from like older individuals sexualizing their children? Who knows? So next we are going to visit the significantly more disturbing level of family channels, and that's going to be the problematic or controversial channels. First, I'm going to start off with the infamous Ace family, who has their fair share of controversy, most of which I think is pretty warranted. To me, the Ace family is absolutely unwatchable, so I'm telling you my bias right now. Mostly because of the dad, Austin's sort of sheer douchebaggery that he exudes when he speaks to the camera. I literally can't watch them at all. Like, LeBrant family is kind of like nice and wholesome, and like you can watch it and not cringe for the most part, but Ace family is like, can't do it. Also, adding on to Austin McBroom, who's the dad of the channel, his like sheer douchebaggeriness, he has often, like multiple times, been extremely ungrateful to his subscribers. Like, he lives such a lavish lifestyle because of his subscribers that buy his merchandise, that dedicate their time every day or a few times a week to watching their content. But he sort of acts like he's doing this huge service to them by providing them family vlogs, and that they should be grateful and never like criticize him. A lot of the times he sort of does that, and that's so I really dislike him for that, because I feel like any influencer who has a significant audience should be grateful to their fan base for supporting them and for dedicating any of their time to watching their content, or financially giving them any sort of money by buying their merch. So I think it's ridiculous. So anyways, the Ace family is comprised of father Austin, mother Catherine, and their 3 children, Elle, Aaliyah, and Steele. They currently have over 19 million subscribers, and their video views average between 4 and 10 million. Like the LeBrant family, the Ace family has created separate Instagram accounts for each of their children, which each have millions of followers. Including their like recently born infant Steele, they also have created an account for him already. But unlike the LeBrant family, from my brief skim of the LeBrant family's children's Instagram accounts, the Ace family seems to use their children's Instagram accounts to promote their merchandise, which seems more skeezy to me. The family has recently created a brand called Silly Juice, which I think is just like a juice company targeted towards kids, and they use their 2 daughters, Elle and Aaliyah's Instagram accounts to promote this product. I could make an entire video just about the Ace family's controversies here on YouTube, but for brevity's sake, I'm just going to go into the ones that are relevant to their children and their treatment of children. So the first controversy I'll note is the whole penis lollipop fiasco that happened in January 2019. So I believe Catherine and Austin took one of Catherine's young relatives, like around under the age of 10, into Spencer's, which is a sort of adult novelty store. If you don't have one where you live, you should. And if you go into Spencer's, towards the back of the store is like a sex section. So I guess when they brought the little girl into the store, they went towards that section, and she picked up a penis lollipop. And Austin decided, instead of like a normal person who would just like sort of like maybe like giggle and then take it away from the kid and be like, no, but like also not embarrass the kid. Anyways, Austin decided to pull out his phone and film this young girl like holding the penis lollipop and ask who was asking Austin to buy it for her, and he was like making this big joke to like his millions of viewers, and it was just extremely inappropriate because it was sort of sexualizing a young child. Even if Austin didn't have malicious intent, like he wasn't trying to sexualize this little girl, it's naive to think that you don't have viewers that do watch your channel and sexualize kids. So if you're putting content out that is more sexual in nature with a kid, it's even worse. There are also a lot of controversies surrounding the legitimacy of Austin and Catherine's marriage, because every few months there is a new cheating scandal about Austin cheating on Catherine, and about how they're only still married for the channel and for the views. I'm not sure how valid any of these are. I don't really care to argue the validity, but I just thought it was interesting to note that maybe they are sort of putting on this whole front of this perfect, beautiful family when behind closed doors they aren't. Austin and his father also have sex assault allegations against them. I'm not going to go in and argue the validity and the semantics of it. I just thought it's interesting to note, just to maybe give you more insight into Austin's potential character. Now let's talk about the content they post. In April 2018, they posted a video called "We Had to Spank Elle for the First Time!" Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. In the video, Catherine shows Austin like this naughty little thing that Elle was doing. She's just like hiding these like Welch's fruit snacks in her little training potty, like in this little compartment, because her dad sort of tries to restrict how many fruit snacks she eats in a day. So Austin jokes about how she eats so many fruit snacks and about how it's so unhealthy for her, and like now he needs to spank her for the first time, and he's like putting on this show. He's like jokingly pretending to fake cry about how he has to spank his daughter for the first time. I will maybe play a clip of it here.
Guys, I never thought I would ever have to do this. She's my little princess. And I love her more than life itself. But these fruit snacks gotta stop. Elle? Turn around. Turn around.
She's laughing.
You said you wanted spanking, so turn around. Turn around.
But anyways, Austin asks Elle if she wants to be spanked, and she says yes, because it's presumably because she doesn't know what spanking is. And then like Catherine and him are joking about spanking Elle for the first time, and then Austin like cuts and is like, oh, like obviously I'm joking, like I would never put hands on my daughter, like I probably never will put hands on my daughter, blah blah blah. But my issue is like, why would you clickbait something like that? Like, why do you think disciplining your child with any sort of physical violence is appropriate to put on YouTube, whether or not it's a joke? Obviously, they did it so they could get a lot of views. The video got more views than the typical video. I think it's around 11 million, 12 million views. So obviously that's why they did it. But it's just so inappropriate. And they even made their, like, I don't know how old Elle was at this time, maybe a couple years old, but they made her, like, pose for the thumbnail of, like, her sort of turning around, showing her, like, backside, and, like, Austin pretending to, like, spank her. I'm like, what is the reason? Why are you the way you are? It's so stupid. Anyways, that's as much as I'm going to go into the hellhole that is the Ace family, and now I'm going to move on to the next family under the problematic umbrella, which is 8 Passengers. This family is sort of teetering between the two categories of a problematic, controversial family channel or an allegedly neglectful or abusive family channel. But for the sake of, like, the mom not striking or not attacking me or sending me a cease and desist for this video, as she has done to other channels, I'm going to keep her in the controversial category for now. So 8 Passengers is a controversial family channel that features mom Ruby, father Kevin, and their 6 children aged 5 to 17. 8 Passengers first came under fire, I think, a few months ago for their treatment of one of their older sons, Chad, who is currently, I think, 15, and for his alleged behavioral issues. I got a lot of my information. I think I first heard about 8 Passengers and their controversy from Smokey Glow's video about them, and I really liked how she covered it, and I agree with basically all the sentiments she has in that video, so I'm going to link it below. I got some more of my information from an Insider article in which I believe they interview Ruby and Kevin, but I'm just warning you that it's very biased in favor of the parents, and I didn't really enjoy that while reading it, but I'm still going to link that below because I got some of my information from them. I need to credit them. Anyways, the family posted a video called What We Haven't Told You, and Ruby's in the frame and their son Chad and a third person. I'm forgetting who the third person is, but Chad is, they're like sort of explaining Chad's recent journey with how he overcame his behavioral issues. And in the video, he says that he hasn't had a bedroom for the past 7 months and that he's been sleeping on a beanbag. And he's really excited because he's finally getting a bedroom back. He got his bedroom taken away originally because he shared it with a younger brother who he pulled a prank on. I believe the prank was like him telling his brother that the family's going to Disneyland the next day at night. Brother like excitedly packed up his suitcase, and then Chad revealed that they weren't going to Disneyland, and the brother was very upset about that. And then I think another instance where like Chad hung this younger brother from a basketball net. Don't really know the specifics of that. But anyways, Ruby and Kevin said that on advice from a therapist that they needed to separate the two sons, I believe. So, because they were sharing rooms, so they need to separate it because of Chad's behavior. I don't think a therapist would tell you not to give your child a bedroom. The therapist just said to separate them, maybe. I'm not sure though. I'm just speculating here. A lot of people thought that removing a child's bedroom for 7 months, which is like a child's only place for privacy or their own sort of safe haven in an entire house, like a family house, for 7 months for playing a sort of, at worst, rude prank on his younger brother is extremely disproportionate. When you are disciplining or consequencing a child, it has to make sense. So if a child is misbehaving, like while using their phone, if they're doing things that are inappropriate on their phone, you would take away the phone for a certain amount of time. That is a proportionate consequence. It is not a proportionate consequence to remove a child's privacy for 7 months. I understand and can appreciate that we don't have the full context of Chad's behavior and what he has done, but I also don't think we should have access to that information. So I can't 100% say if it is a disproportionate consequence, but I'm pretty confident it is disproportionate. The parents also tried to justify the consequence by saying that Chad has a history of inappropriate or physically or emotionally problematic behavior to his siblings and his classmates. One of these behaviors got him suspended from school for a bit, which they made a video on, which, why are you creating a video about your child going through a vulnerable time in their life? They also speak about how they sent him to a 10-week intervention wilderness program for troubled teens. The camp that Chad was sent to is called Anasazi and describes a troubled teen as, and I'm going to quote this, adolescents and young adults struggling with lack of motivation, defiance, mild mood disorders, drug and alcohol experimentation, internet addictions, entitlement issues, and other self-defeating behaviors. I feel like as a teenager, I fell into literally all of these categories. They sound very like on par for like the life experience of a teenager. Anyways, this certain wilderness program like protests against naysayers, so that they are non-militant, that they have clinicians on site, that they like are that the safety of the kids are their main priority, so that's good. But a lot of other wilderness camps that are for like troubled teens to sort of whip them into shape have actually resulted in the deaths of children from different things. So I'm just going to note that. My main problem with the parenting style of Ruby and Kevin is deciding that it's appropriate to air the dirty laundry of their minor child to millions to give their sort of opinion on. Obviously, Chad was going through something during this time, and I don't think it's appropriate to film those videos, edit those videos, and post them to YouTube when you should be supporting your son and loving your son in that moment because he obviously needs it. Why would you think that's an appropriate time to film content? Like, you can make content and just not mention your son Chad or like how he's doing or just like breeze over it. It's not appropriate. I'm currently studying to work with quote unquote troubled youth. We don't like to call it that in the field and like the social work sphere of things because it's just like, you know, kids are bad kids. That's the sort of philosophy. So my understanding, my mediocre understanding of behavioral issues in children is that there's always a reason or there's always an intent behind the behavior. A lot of the time when a child is acting out in a physical or emotionally volatile way, it is because it is a cry for help. It is because there is an area in their life that they're struggling. Either they are being abused, I'm not saying this is the case with Chad, so relax. Either they are being abused at home, sexually, physically, emotionally, verbally, or by someone close to them, not necessarily at home. They're getting bullied at school. They have experienced some sort of traumatic event recently, and they can't conceptualize or compartmentalize what is happening to them, so they lash out, or some sort of undiagnosed mental illness that they're struggling with. Anyways, it should be treated with privacy, dignity, and care. It shouldn't be exposed to the internet. Chad should, as an adult, if he wants to talk about his experiences as a kid and his struggles as a kid, that's his prerogative. But his parents shouldn't be the one exposing him to it while he's still in the midst of it. I just want to emphasize that I'm not trying to diagnose Chad's behavior or conclude that Ruby or Kevin are being abusive towards Chad, because that would be unethical to me because I'm not working with a family and there's not evidence that I've garnered that I can make that conclusion. So I'm not saying that, I'm just giving sort of anecdotal evidence of what this typically means. They were also experiencing a lot of controversy for saying that Chad's bedroom door was removed. So essentially he had no privacy because he couldn't shut the door and shut his family out. And they sort of resolved this by stating that it was Chad's initiative. He was the one that wanted to take the door off the handle to prove to his parents that they could trust him. But why does your kid feel so beat down that he has to prove to you that he is trustworthy? That is sad to me. It seems a bit sad to me, but who knows? I can be completely misunderstanding the interworkings of this family, but it just seems inappropriate to air this dirty laundry on the internet. The family is currently continuing to post the same content online, and I don't really know public reception about it, but they seem to be just doing fine. They still get hundreds of thousands of views on their videos, so the controversy didn't do much. So now we're going to the boss babies of all family channels, which is the abusive or neglectful family channels. So first, let's start with Myka Stauffer and the Stauffer? I don't care. The Stauffer life. From my understanding, the Stauffers, I'm just going to call them the Stauffers. They had a channel called the Stauffer life, which they have now privated or removed from YouTube after a bunch of backlash. So the Stauffer life followed mother Myka, father James, and their 4 children, 3 of which were biological, and 1 child which was adopted internationally named Huxley. Myka also has her own channel, which she used to post like mommy blogger content on their fitness journey, stuff like that, but she hasn't been active on there in 2 months. Her husband also has a channel called Stauffer's Garage, where he talks about cars and almost has 1 million subscribers. Super riveting stuff. Obviously, I'm not the target demographic, but I'm sure most of you watching already know the controversy that happened a few months ago around this family because it was huge YouTube news and it was also picked up by traditional news channels and media. So Myka and James decided to adopt a child from China in around October 2017, and they told this adoption agency that they were open to adopting a kid with special needs or a kid with disabilities. So they adopted a little boy named Huxley, who I believe was a little bit over 2 years old when he was adopted by the Stauffer family. It is my understanding that Huxley was diagnosed with autism, so he's on the ASD spectrum, and he also has other complex needs. I think he may have an attachment disorder. Attachment disorders are often common in adopted children, so it wouldn't be unheard of if he did have it. Myka admitted that professionals and doctors in her life warned her against adopting Huxley just because he was such a high needs child, and that they didn't know if the family could handle it, especially having 2 other biological children at the time, and then shortly after birthing a 3rd biological child. In late May or early June of 2020, Myka and James went on camera to announce that they had rehomed Huxley. This was sort of disturbing for a lot of their viewers because a lot of people believe that the majority of the audience they have is because of their adoption journey with Huxley. That was the only thing that set them apart from thousands of other family channels. In my opinion, it's extremely unethical for Myka and James to adopt Huxley, who they knew was high needs and were warned against adopting, and after only around a year and a half of trying to work with him and trying to accommodate and meet his needs, they give up and they rehome him. If you are not ready to take on a high needs or a complex needs child, you should not be taking on that child. This whole situation is just extremely sad for Huxley, and my heart aches for him. If he had attachment issues before, they're 100% exacerbated by this recent experience, and all I hope is that his new family just loves him and supports him and is able to meet his needs, and I hope he stays offline. I hope that family keeps him offline, which so far they have, so that's good in my book. I hope also Myka and James have given a lot of the financial gain that they have gotten from their YouTube channel to Huxley and to Huxley's new family to help meet his medical and other needs, because that would be the ethical thing to do. If this child is your main draw or was your main draw and you made so much money off of him, then you should give that money back to him when you decided to rehome him. So now on to the last channel and pretty much the worst channel that we're going to be talking about, which is Daddyofive. Daddyofive is a now defunct and abandoned, or I think they were removed, YouTube channel that was active between the years of 2015 to 2018 and was the center of a major scandal around 2017. The channel was created by Father Michael Martin and featured his wife Heather Martin and their 5 children. From my understanding, Jake and Alex are Heather's biological children, then Emma and Cody have a different biological mother named Rose Hall, and then I'm unsure of who Ryan's biological mother is. I don't know if that's relevant. It's sort of relevant because of the custody issues that happened later. And around 2017, a lot of viewers started noticing that Mike and Heather were mistreating and allegedly abusing their children, especially the youngest, Cody. And a lot of this mistreatment was featured in their vlogs and pranks that they would pull. So the whole situation is sort of long and legally all over the place, so I'm going to give you the TLDR. One of the videos involved them forcing their children to slap each other. Another prank involved the parents pouring invisible ink in one of the bedroom carpets of one of their children's room, and then proceeding to yell loudly and literally so verbally abusive, allegedly, at their children in the video, blaming the spill on them, and their child bursts out into tears because they're being allegedly verbally abused on camera and being blamed for something they didn't do, and it's traumatizing to see, and I'm sure it was traumatizing for the children. It seemed to viewers that Heather and Mike were targeting the youngest kid for most of their cruel pranks, and allegedly in one video, Mike pushed the youngest child into a shelf, which allegedly caused him to bleed. Heather and Mike continue to deny these abuse allegations, citing that they're all just playing characters and all the pranks and the vlogs are scripted. But when you watch Heather and Mike, they seem to be not smart enough to know how to script a video. No offense. Anyways, after bigger channels like Philip DeFranco started reporting on this mistreatment, the biological mother of Emma and Cody filed for emergency custody. So she got custody over those two kids. I'm unsure of whose custody they're currently in. Hopefully Rose, because she seems like the more suitable and less abusive, allegedly abusive parent. After all this public outcry, Heather and Mike were each charged with 2 counts of neglect of a minor, and they both took an Alford plea. So essentially, that's a plea that the defendant, sort of acknowledges that the prosecution has enough evidence that if it went to trial, they would probably be convicted, but this plea still allows the defendant to not admit guilt. And each of them got 5 years of supervised parole or probation. Even after all of this, and some of their probation regulations and guidelines that they had to follow was that they couldn't film their kids and put it on YouTube or online anymore. They still tried to reignite their YouTube channel, but YouTube, after more outcry for them continuing to make content, similar content, cruel pranks, YouTube terminated and deleted their channel. I think it was called Daddyofive. And then, after being terminated from YouTube, they still tried to make more content. They would upload videos on their website in which they would make viewers pay a monthly subscription fee to access the video. And I believe they also streamed on Twitch. From my understanding, Heather and Mike aren't currently streaming on Twitch or posting any videos on the website, thank God. But when I went on their website, there is still merchandise available that I think you can buy, which is still shitty that these alleged abusers are still marketing off of their alleged abuse. I just want to note that YouTube allowed this family to produce and continue to post content onto this platform for years, where these kids were subjects of cruel and allegedly abusive pranks. And they were mistreated for like millions of people to see. And it was only the public outcry that got YouTube to finally do something about it. So that's all I'm going to go into about Daddyofive. I really hope that he never is allowed to make content on this platform ever again, because he doesn't deserve to, in my opinion. But I know a couple of his sons have a channel in which, like, their oldest son, the 18-year-old, makes content, and I watched one of his recent videos and he talks about how like he's trying to get his dad to return to YouTube, and God, please don't let Mike Martin back on YouTube, or Heather. So to this day, YouTube has no real child labor laws or regulation around content that includes minors, especially children under, for me, in my opinion, under the age of 14 should be more policed. They have some community guidelines around content that is not allowed on the platform involving minors. They define minors as persons under the age of 18, and this content that is not allowed on YouTube is as follows. I'm going to quote: "Content that sexualizes minors, displays dangerous, harmful acts involving minors, displays someone inflicting emotional distress on a minor, cyberbullies or harasses minors," aka Rice Gum's whole channel a few years ago, or misleading family content, which they define as content targeting minors or families that includes sexual themes of violence or other mature themes and or crude cartoons. The problem is that YouTube has no real system in place to monitor the content that is being uploaded onto YouTube that includes children and that could potentially be exploiting children. It only seems like a lot of this content can sort of skirt under the radar of any sort of software they do have in place to recognize harmful content, and it's only when community members report, and a lot of them report the content, that YouTube takes action. And I think this is counterintuitive. I think YouTube should be doing more to protect minors on this platform. Even more than that, YouTube should also have rules and regulations put in place for channels that consistently feature minors, such as YouTube channels. Channels that include content with children should be forced to accommodate children in certain ways and abide by certain rules to ensure that children still are allowed to be children and aren't being forced to make content on these family channels. It should also be ensured that children are being compensated for their participation in this content. I think rules and regulations by YouTube should be put into place similar to child actor labor laws. Child actor labor laws outline certain policies that filmmakers and other crew members have to adhere to while working with children, such as access to education and schooling on sets, certain limits for how long a child can work in one day or 1 week, avoiding exposing them to any stimuli that can be traumatizing, and with their parents or guardians have to put most of the money that the child is making from acting into a trust fund that they can access and that their parents can't touch. And even these child actor regulations aren't universal. There's many countries, and in fact there's a bunch of states that have no child labor or child actor laws. So that is the end of my rant for today. I'm sure there's a million more things I can say about how family channels low-key, high-key exploit their children and how I don't really think is ethical. If you have any examples or if you have a different opinion and you think family channels are the bomb and are really good for the children, please let me know your thoughts below. But just wanted to thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Thank you.